Boker Tov. It is Tuesday, I believe December 2nd. It is snowing out. We've got about 2 inches of snow, which looks like potentially that the door for me to head back west may be closing or may be closed. Got a few things on my mind this morning that I want to share, but I'm dedicating this video to a man I haven't met yet. His name is Matt. He recently asked me some questions about the life and the service of Avaraham to Alahaym. And that's on my mind this morning. It's among a few other things that I'll attempt to talk about, one of which is discernment. Discernment. So before I get started, Almighty One, Father, we just ask you to bless this time, this space that we're sharing together, whoever's watching this video, that this would be edifying to me, to them, that it'd be a blessing to you, to hear us, your children, talking about your ways, seeking out your ways, considering your ways according to your word and the Spirit. I thank you for this day. I thank you for your incredible, beautiful creation that's all around us, the magnificence of the earth, the seas, the skies, and all that live within them. I pray for your people. I pray for Am Yisrael. I pray for the nations. Chagoim. I pray for the children and the sheep, so to speak, Father, the people that have been neglected and misled by poor shepherds, by even bad shepherds, Father, and even worse, by evil shepherds. I thank you for this day. I thank you for this opportunity to serve you. I pray you bless me to do that well, Father, in this moment, in this morning, in this day. And when I say in your Son's name, I say in the name of Israel, the firstborn Son, which is the body, the anointed body of those who will do your straightness. Let there be no confusion. And the head of that body is Mashiach. And we are all parts of that body. And we all serve the body. We all have different functions, but we need together. We need to be as one. We need to be echad. As the prophecy of Hazakel was that the two sticks, one engraved with Yehuda, one with Ephraim, that they would be bound together as one, and that he was to walk in front of the people with these two sticks that need to be as one, Father. Bring us together as one, as red and blue, as man and woman, to be echad and to be fruitful before you, Father, to be straight, to walk before you. As it says in Mashle or Proverbs 3:5-8, that we should give you proper reverence, that we should honor you in all of our ways, that we should put you in your proper place, that you will direct our path, that you will make it straight, that we should not be wise in our own eyes. And when we give you your proper reverence, it will be healing to our gut, our immune system, and life to our bones, which is where we produce the blood. And it says that the life is in the blood. So I pray that you bless us to fulfill these things that you have guided us in, according to your word and your Spirit, Father, now and forever. Blessed be the name of Yahuwah. Yahuwah gives, Yahuwah takes. Blessed be his name forever. Hallelujah. I'm just going to stop the video. Sometimes I close with a word of prayer at the end, but, I think it's wise to do it at the beginning. Just having a little snack, a little. I read that dates with little butter is a superfood that can sustain life itself. So this morning I'm having a little snack, some dates with some coffee. I'm gonna open and read from the English version, the New American Standard Bible. This was a gift that was given to me many years ago from my mom. Oh, Mama wants to come in. Pardon me 1 second. Good girl. Cold out there, huh? Yeah. Oh, you're interested in some food? You're gonna have to wait until I finish the video. But we'll get you some food. Good girl. Good girl. All right. So I'm going to turn to Genesis chapter 18. Hey, Mama, you're going to have to wait. You smell that butter on the dates, don't you? So this gentleman Matt, was asking me questions about what was Abraham's priesthood or service to the Almighty like. What did that look like? What were his acts of piety? What were his rituals? What were his ceremony? And I told Matt, I said, I think that if it wasn't mentioned for a reason. I think that what was mentioned, what is mentioned, is what's important. And I have a little messenger group on Facebook that I'm trying to coordinate, facilitate for this idea of coming together and having common ground, having oneness. And in that group this morning, I shared how, as an art understudy, that I learned and was taught that, there's what's called positive space in a painting, and there's also called negative space in the painting. And both communicate something to us, whether we're aware of it or not. And so how I apply that principle of art to communication is that what people say is the positive space, but there's all this negative space around it, what they didn't say. And if you consider the negative space to the positive space in a sentence, there's a lot more negative space than there is positive space. And so you could say that it's harder to discern all that positive space, but that positive space might actually say more than the negative space might actually communicate more than the positive. So sometimes what a person doesn't say can communicate more than what they are saying. I'm just going to read verses 1 through 8. Now Yahuwah, as it's written, Yod He Wah He, doesn't say the messenger of Yahuwah, it just says Yahuwah, appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre, while he was sitting at the tent door in the heat of the day. The heat of the day is the height of the day, usually. That means like when the sun is at the maximum. I believe it's called Sacharim in Hebrew. It's when the earth receives the most creative energy from the sunlight, when the sun is perpendicular to the face of the earth. When he lifted his eyes and looked, behold, 3 men were standing opposite. And when he saw, he ran to the tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the earth. And he said, Adonai, if I have found favor in your sight, please do not pass your servant by. So he recognized who this is, right? Because he's asking him, don't pass by me. He's bowing, prostrating himself below him. So he had a knowing of who he was being visited by. That, or he's just an incredibly humble man. If he would treat everyone that would walk by his tent like this, that's a pretty incredible concept. I hadn't considered that before, but now that I'm reading this and speaking this, maybe, that is a possibility. Please, let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. I will bring a piece of bread that you may refresh yourselves. After that, you may go on, since you have visited your servant. And they said, so do as you have said. So Abraham hurried to the tent to Shara and said, quickly prepare 3 measures of fine flour, knead it, and make bread cakes. So I think it's important that it's telling us 3 measures of fine flour. Abraham also ran to the herd and took a tender and choice calf, veal, gave it to the servant, and he hurried to prepare it. He took curds of milk and the calf which he had prepared and placed it before them. And he was standing by them under the tree as they ate. Okay? So this is very interesting because in Halacha, the law is we do not mix dairy. We do not mix meat, red meat, and dairy. And yet here we're seeing that Abraham is serving meat and dairy, curds and milk and meat to these 3 holy visitors that he has. Then that's verse 8. So the chapter goes on to where where Abraham receives this blessing that Sarah in her old age and he in his old age are going to have a son. They're going to have this son, which after Sarah laughs, she's told that she should name him Yitzhak, to laugh. Yitzhak, ha, ha. I don't know. But so it's interesting to me when this man, Matt, when you're asking about Abraham's ritualistic observation and serving the Almighty as a priest, what does that look like? My spirit is responding very strongly that this is not about pomp and circumstances. This is not about ritual. Mama, leave me alone. Wait, I'm making a video. She knows how to let me know when she's ready to eat. She's a good communicator. Probably better than me. So how did Abraham serve these three holy messengers, one of which is literally called Yahuwah? We know it must be a proxy of the Almighty One in some sense, because Masha could not even look upon the presence of the Almighty One when he was up on the mountain. He had to hide in a crevice of a rock, and he could only see after the presence passed by, just a little bit of as it passed by the rear, so to speak. And this glory was so intense that even that little bit of exposure that Masha had to the divine, the holy presence of the Almighty, that he glowed. He glowed so brightly, he had to have a covering over his face because he glowed so brightly. So we need to have some discernment here. Mama, go to your bed. Good girl. We need to have some discernment. And so, Matt, when you're asking me about what was the priesthood, how did Abraham fulfill the law? First and foremost, I would say that Abraham, I would suggest, okay, this is my view, this is my suggestion based on the limited amount of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom I hope that I have. But I would say that Abraham served as a priest through hospitality, through it, it's not necessarily in the Torah, but it's part of the Hebraic tradition that Abraham had a tent that was open on four sides. Now, we don't hear that in this case. We hear that there was, he was sitting at a tent gate. Actually, it might imply that because it says he was sitting at the tent door, but then he ran to the tent door. So maybe he was sitting at one door and then all of a sudden he sees these guests maybe approach from a different way and he runs to another tent door. But the lore or the tradition is that he had his tent open to these four different directions. And it may just be as simple as a metaphor, a euphemism to suggest that his tent was open to people no matter which direction they came from, no matter which way they came from, no matter which land they came from, no matter what color their skin was or what ethnicity, or whether their father was Ham or whether their father was Sham or whether their father was Ephath. He was open and he gave them hospitality. And he fed them, and he washed their feet. So when I'm reflecting from memory of what we just read together, Abraham bowed. So first he had to see them, right? So he saw them, acknowledged them, he prostrated himself, he got water, and he washed their feet with that water. He went and picked out the best of his flock, prepared it, served it with curds, and fed them. So acknowledged, prostrated himself, gave of his wealth, took time to not just give it, but actually prepare it, serve it in a place that they were comfortable under the tree. So it's the height of the day, right? They're under a tree, so they have shade, they're comfortable. Their feet are washed. They've been traveling. This is a very significant thing because men tended to wear sandals in the desert in this region and would have dusty feet from the traveling. This is one of the reasons that my channel is called Dirty Feet. It's also a symbol that my feet need to be washed. So Abraham has demonstrated all of these simple, basic human elements. And Matt, that's what I'm pointing to in terms of what Abraham's service was to the Most High Yah. And that's what I believe he ultimately wants for us. When he gave us all of this other stuff, it's not bad. It's like, if you look at the history of what happened, the original priesthood was the firstborn son, the Bakur. Beth, Kaf, Wo, Resh. The Bakur is the firstborn son, but there's also another word that I would suggest that is appropriate for that firstborn son, which is bar. And I believe this is where England gets the word bar association, because it infers the law, it infers order, the house head. Beth is the house and Resh is the head. So Beth Resh is house head. It's the first two letters of the Torah, Beth Resh. The second two letters are Elaf Shin, and the third two letters, the third pair of letters is Yud and Tho, Eth, which is inferring to give, to contract. So the house head in the beginning, fire, and to contract. This is the root of the word Barashith, and you can dissect that word to see how much is packed into it. And there's just an incredible amount packed into it. So you have Bare, Sheath, Resh, Eth. There's all these different letter formations and words that we can glean from this word Bare Sheath. But when we were first created, we weren't even created to toil the earth. We were created to live in the garden. We were created to enjoy the fruits of the garden, the beauty of the garden, to interact with the life. Adam, his first task, as I recall, was to give names and to name, which is to interact and to recognize. When you name someone or you bless someone with a name, it's because you're acknowledging something about them. You're giving them an acknowledgement, something that reflects who they are. My name is interesting because it didn't come. The name Meshar or Meshar has its own meaning, but that's not how my name came to be. My name came to be because of Ashar, and then add in a meme to mean of, in an effort to not take on a name that was too big for me. But it was a name that I was blessed with by my parents. It was a name that I prayed for. And it was a name that I received an answer that it was my name, and that I was blessed for me. But our name is really, it's our identity. In function, that's what a name is for. It's to communicate who and what we are. Abraham and Sarah both had their names changed. First, it was Avraham and Sharai. And Sharai would be the possessive form of Shar. You could say my prince. To take away the Yud and add a Hey made it Shara, which made it more like my princess, or not even but princess. And then to take that Hey and add it to Avraham changed the meaning of his name as well. But interestingly enough, when you look at the overall value of their two names together, when Shara lost the Yud, she received a Hey, which is half the Yud, and Avraham received the other half. So they both got an elevation of a Hey in their name with this renaming. I believe what the Almighty wants with us, we have to look at the beginning and we have to look at the end, because it's like a circle. And then we need to understand everything that's happening along the path of this circle, but ultimately that the end and the beginning are connected and become ultimately one point. And so while we left Gan Eden, we're heading back to Gan Eden. In Gan Eden, our life was very simple. We were naked. We were exposed, we were vulnerable, we were unashamed, we were eating fruits, we were in paradise. There was a man, there was a woman. It was not good for man to be alone. He had a helpmate, he was not alone. And It says that the Almighty walked in this garden, that his footsteps, we're in this garden. That could be a euphemism. It could be not a euphemism. But what it points to is an intimate relationship where the Almighty came down and lowered himself to our level to interact with us and to be known by us, and for us to know him and for him to know us. I mean, he already knew us because he formed us, but when I say for him to know us as we are, know us in the choices that we make, and of course he has the foreknowledge. He already knows, he knows all. It's really more for us to know him, to be blessed to know him, to be blessed to interact with him as his children. And what would that relationship ultimately be for? So that we could be as him, that we would know him, know his nature, and see how good he is. And in seeing that goodness, be inspired by it, be drawn to it, to reflect and to imitate and to be as our Father, as our Creator. This to me is what, if someone wants to know what is the priesthood of Avraham, that's the priesthood of Avraham, to be a simple man and to walk in the way that we were created, to honor one another, to serve one another, even that the greater would lower himself and prostrate himself to serve the lesser. And this is the example that we see when Mashiach says he has to wash the feet of his disciples, and his disciples are like, whoa, we don't want you getting down low on yourself and washing our feet. We should be washing your feet. And he says, I must do this. You must allow me to do this. And when he does it, not only does he wash the feet of the 10, the 11, the 12, the 11 that have not betrayed him, he lowers himself and even washes the feet of Yehuda, the one that would betray him. The concept of lowering brings to mind an experience I just had with my ex-wife. I was looking desperately to connect with my children while they were in town. I haven't seen my son in 8 years, and I haven't seen my daughter in 4 years. And it's not my choice. So I took them each a box of things that I would hope would be special to them, that had some connection between us, that were from my life, from their life, as well as something else special for my son, from his grandfather, who passed away last August. When I saw my ex, at first she was willing to receive these gifts, and then she wanted to, rehash the past and, in my view, regurgitate her narrative without any consideration to my experience. And one of the things that she said is, you didn't do your best. And that really, I was able to keep my calm through, I would say, most of the conversation. And then ultimately, when she said that I didn't do my best, that really hit me hard, because I don't believe that any other person can say that we haven't done our best, because no other person knows what we're dealing with on the outside and the inside. And then when she changed her mind and said that I couldn't leave the presents for my children, that really tipped it for me, because it's like I went into like Papa Bear mode, like to try to, it's like this nature to protect my children. It's like, why would you deny the children these things that I've brought for them? I'm not giving these things to them for me. I'm giving these things to them for them. And now you're denying them to receive these things because you have a beef with me. And so I failed, because I then responded to this form of communication, and I also raised my voice. I even dropped an F-bomb. And then ultimately her stepdad came out and told me to leave. And there was a form of a confrontation there, and I saw in his eye a tear. And when I saw that tear in his eye, it touched me, because I recognized that even though he was coming at me or coming against me, I believe that he thought he was protecting his family, and that's ultimately good. And so when I saw that tear in his eye, I was able to not take what was happening personally. I was able to take the attitude, Father, forgive them, they don't know what they do. And I just said to him, you never had a conversation with me. You've never had a conversation with me. From the time that we were engaged, to the time that we were married, to the time that we were separated, and the time we were divorced, that man never had a conversation with me. Never sat down and talked to me, never inquired who I was, never talked to me about what my dreams were, what my goal was, what my desire was for my family, never asked me what was happening. And I don't understand that. And I needed a man to do that for me. And I didn't have the sense to go to him. And you know what I should have done that I didn't do at that time is I should have gone to her father. I should have gone to her father and shared my heart with her father. And I never did that. And the thing is, like, even when a man has chosen a righteous path or to seek righteousness and to make this his life, Masha did not enter into the land because he got angry. Masha, when he was supposed to speak to the stone, the rock, he struck it. And because of this, he only saw the land that he had led his people to, and he didn't enter it. And so I take that lesson very deeply to heart, that I never want to strike the rock. I want to speak to the rock. And even though I did raise my voice, dropped an F-bomb, I still spoke in truth. And I didn't lose control, even though I lost my composure. I did lose my composure, but I didn't lose control. And for that, I'm thankful for. Because there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of baggage there, and it would have been easy to lose control, especially when a guy comes out and threatens to punch you in the face. But I don't necessarily hold that against him because, like I said, I believe that his desire was to protect his family, and that I respect and that I admire. That's my desire also. So Matt, getting back to Abraham and what his priestly service looked like, I'm going to be honest with you. I think you're over-intellectualizing it. I think that you're approaching it at da'ath, at the knowledge, at the level of knowledge. And we need to go beyond knowledge. We need bina, we need understanding, and we need hakama, we need wisdom. So just like there were these three that came before Abraham, there's also not just knowledge, not just understanding, but there's also wisdom, and we need to have all three. And we need to have the context of all three, which to me is also, when we say the Shama, we say Shama Yisrael, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah Echad, Ehavat, Etha, Yahuwah Eloheinu, with three things, Bakal Bavak, with all of our soul, with all of our heart, Bakal Nefeshak, with all of our soul, and Bakal Medak, with all of our might. Again, three things, just like Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, not Da'ath, Bina, Hakama, the skies, the land, and the sea, this pattern of three. The father, the mother, the child, three. This is why I put a red heart with a flame and a blue heart. Because that ultimately represents that flame as the purple heart that's hidden, that's the red heart and the blue heart combined together, that divine spark that's between the masculine, that sits between the masculine and the feminine, the soul. That's what that represents to me in a part. It represents a lot more than that, but that's what it represents in part. So, in short, Abraham he greeted, he recognized, acknowledged, and greeted, and lowered himself to these messengers, these holy messengers. He washed their feet, cleanliness, service. He fed them, and he fed them butter, milk, and meat. If I'm not mistaken, doesn't it mentions butter? I thought specifically, at least in one version that I read, that it mentions butter, not just milk. It mentions curds. This is why I like to read with multiple versions and have the Hebrew there open as well. Yeah, in this version, I don't see it mentioning butter. that might have just been an interpretation of the Kurds in the version that I read the last time, and the butter might have been the Kurds interpreted as butter instead of Kurds. So to me, Matt, this is the answer to your question. It's the heart of the Torah is the Torah, is to love our Father and to love our brother. Heaven and earth. And we can't love our brother if we don't love our Father. And if we say we love our Father without loving our brother, we make ourselves a liar. The way that we can love our brother is we have to look up to Shamim, to heaven, and look back down at our brother with the view or with the eyes of a father, to look at him as a child, look at him or her as a child of Yah. And we need to love them. This is why it's much more difficult if you're not a father. Tradition said, in the tradition, you didn't go into the mystical aspects of Judaism per se, unless you were a male, 40 years old, a husband, and had children. I think I got all four things, that these were like the four corners that you needed to have in order to have proper context, in order to be able to approach these mystical concepts with discernment of the human experience so that you don't get it twisted. So Matt, I don't know if you're a father or not, but if you are not a father, it's going to be difficult for you to understand what I believe the nature of the relationship that the Holy One wants with us. Because as a father, as soon as I had children, as soon as I became a father, my concept of love changed. Because even though my children honestly treat me as dead, they don't speak to me, right? That's a harsh thing to say. I don't like to speak negatively of anyone, but the reality is my children right now are treating me as dead. And yet, my love for them will never change. The relationship is limited by how each party approaches it, but the love is the love. And that love will never change, while the relationship has limits. And this, I believe, is the best way I could explain how Avaraham served the Almighty. He served him like a good and faithful son. He recognized that he was greater than all creation, and he acted appropriately based on that recognition, that knowledge, that understanding, that wisdom. Blessings. Love and respect, always.